Right, boys, trend 4 of the Shopify Future of E-commerce report, brand building challenged by marketplace dominance. Jeff, you're getting the hot potato this week. What's this talking about?
I think it's really relevant to what we do, and it's really relevant to the world in general, the world of e-commerce, which is, it's never been easier to set up a product feed, for example, and then just sling all of your products onto Facebook or Amazon or eBay. Everyone's doing it. Those specific platforms make it incredibly easy to do it nowadays. Shopify have got a vested interest in saying that's not the best way to go. So I understand why it's one of the trends, but it's something I personally agree with. I think you should own your own real estate. And I think the Shopify line is, create your own brand.
Yeah, I highlighted building a brand has never been more important or more difficult. The good news is that a socially conscious consumer is willing to pay more for a premium brand with a purpose.
Yeah, the one that really got me, that wasn't the line I was looking for, but 40% of consumers want a product that aligns with their beliefs or values.
This is it, yeah. So, yeah, if you're more about just getting, you're about more than getting the product into your customers' hands. There's a bigger picture, there's a bigger purpose, there's a brand plus the product. That's what this trend's going on about, isn't it? It's saying you should be putting effort into building your brand, not just flogging your stock.
Yeah, and that's, we've talked about that a lot of times. There's never been more difficult part, USP. What is a USP? Why should anyone buy from your brand versus just going onto Amazon and searching for your genericized product name and buying the cheapest one?
Joe, something I was going to ask you to touch on. I heard you say in the office the other day that search actually captures demand, whereas other sorts of marketing generates it. Do you want to talk about that in the context to this and building your brand up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would almost go a step further in that sense, in that, we do search, it captures demand. It's all about intent. You know what somebody's looking for based on the words they type into the search bar. And what's interesting is that for years we've seen sort of like cheapest and best value and things like that being, very, very high volume searches on Google. And what's happened over the last couple of years is that they've started to sort of drop off, because if people want the cheapest thing, they just go to Amazon and they sort by price, and it's very easy. And these days, the dominant search in Google is best, and so it's the demand that you're capturing almost, if you're still within that realm, is the people who are looking for, what they consider to be the best thing. Like they're a little bit less price sensitive, and they do want the thing that's going to be in some way better than the cheapest one that makes it more worthwhile for them, which is that USP that we're talking about. You have to kind of have something that you can offer people like that, because the demand you're capturing is quite possibly the beginning of a research process, rather than like a one-click buy it now, unless you've got all the information that they want, which is possible, but you can't do it by accident.
Yeah, when people are finally starting to want the best in category versus just wanting the thing. Yeah, Jeff, one of your favorite bits to date is that Google Trends graph when you've got the word cheap over the word best. And it's basically an X like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it probably stems from the coronavirus. It's not people looking for it's not people looking for the USP, it's people looking for a genuine value. So you know what it's like when you go to Amazon and buy the cheapest product. There's almost a slight expectation nowadays. And I think it's getting worse on Amazon that the product you get is going to be a little bit crap, but the cheapest. I guess what people are looking for when they're looking for best, I'm a subscriber to the Reddit subreddit Buy It For Life.
Right.
And people are looking for genuine value in terms of that. So I want something, I want it now, but I want something that I know is going to last.
Give us something you've bought off the back of that Reddit, please.
Nothing, because nothing's Buy It For Life anymore these days. So there's a couple of tropes in there, things like Dr. Martens and stuff, which used to be genuine Buy It For Lives. And then production gets moved to China and things like that, and not a lot of stuff is Buy It For Life anymore these days.
Yeah.
But I think people are being more considerate of that, and potentially the best search is taking into consideration, is this product going to have a lifespan as well?
Interesting. Let's stick with the idea of Buy It For Life for a bit, because if you're going to buy something and it's going to be with you for life, you better make sure that your brand is incredible. That's got to be something that's going to be in your customer's life forever. I can't think of anything I've got that's buy it for life. Have you got anything that you own that you will have for life at all?
Something that springs to mind is I've got a proper Swiss Army knife, Victorinox.
Right. Okay.
I feel as though that's not going to just like give up the ghost on us anytime soon. It's a pretty sturdy piece of kit. You know, they've been around for a very long time, and they haven't changed in a long time either.
You got anything, Joe?
Absolutely not. No. To be totally frank, I'm just starting to accumulate like clothes that I've had for 2 or 3 years. Never mind like actual, devices and objects. And I mean, I think probably the closest I've come is it's still something where the obsolescence is planned in later. I've had the laptop that I'm using now. I've had for kind of 4 or 5 years, which is longer than I've ever had one last in the past.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's on its second battery and it cost a fortune in the first place and all the rest of it. And it isn't going to, I'm probably going to buy, whatever the new version is next time because I'm quite well bought into the brand.
Yeah, okay.
But the product is not for life and it never will be.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of it, isn't it? Like smartwatches, I really quite fancy a smartwatch, but what I don't want is a £200 watch that I have to replace every 3 years. Yes. That just sounds like such a money pit.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, that's an interesting one because Apple, you're probably an Apple brand evangelist for life, but you're not an Apple product for life, are you? It's built into their business model that none of the products are for life.
That's why Apple's the most valuable business in the world is because people buy into the ecosystem and then they make the product so desirable that I had an Apple Watch for 5 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Which came to an unfortunate end, but they do make you want to buy a new one. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've done it on iPhones. If Apple just moved to a subscription model, which was mentioned within the Shopify report, by the way, and just
kept on track. Appreciate that.
Pay us X amount of money, and we will just give you the latest Apple product. I think that will be very appealing to a lot of Apple customers.
How much would that be?
Well, they've done it with iPhones, and I think the cost is just a little bit more than what you would pay if you were in the regular update loop. But they could do it certainly within categories like laptops, and we'll cover your charger and your accessories and a mouse and a keyboard, and you will always have the latest Apple tech. That's quite an appealing proposition.
It's very antithetic to what we said in the last trend. Joe, you were on it. Jeff, you swerved that week, but we're talking about conscious consumerism and just constantly getting the latest Apple product or the latest iPhone or the latest watch or keyboard or mouse or whatever the frig Tim Cook's decided to release next. It's not very buy it for life or keep it forever, is it?
I mean, I'll throw into the loop that Apple products are genuinely pretty good in terms of lifespan, especially compared to the rest of the market. But you're talking about like the Apple fanboys who would subscribe to that model. I don't know many people who are just general punters who are on the iPhone trade-up program, for example.
Yeah. I tell you what, let me ask you a question to get back on track with this report. Joe, I'm going to come to you. Why don't Apple sell on any marketplaces?
I think with them, it's exclusivity, isn't it? They don't need to. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Like there are other retailers where like you can go onto Amazon, get it delivered next day, all the rest of it. And if, whichever manufacturer it is, if you're buying like, I don't know, white goods or something like that, if Hotpoint aren't there and you want yours delivered from Amazon next day, you will buy a Samsung washing machine instead. And it's job done, you're finished, But if the iPhone 13 isn't on Amazon, you're just going to go to where there is an iPhone 13. No other phone is going to take its place in your pocket. You're just going to go to where you need to be. And Apple know this. And it's why they never discount. It's why it gives them complete control of the whole supply chain from start to finish. Like you get that Genius Bar experience when you're buying from things if you do it in person.
Okay.
And even if you don't, then it means that they've got absolute control over, the e-commerce experience as well. And it gives them that. It's to be honest, it's almost a chicken and egg thing of without having that level of control, I wonder how much you'd struggle to build a brand that strong.
Interesting, because the headline here on the report is marketplaces dominate brands. I think what any listeners to this have to realize is they are not Apple. They have to get in front of people that don't know about them, don't know who they are, do not give a fuck that brand exists, but they potentially want the thing that you sell. That's why marketplaces dominate brands. So, if you can go somewhere where people looking for your category of products exists, that's going to be a great way for you to just gain a bit of market share, just, get your foot in the door, so to speak. The one that springs to mind for me is Etsy. If you're looking for like creative or homeware sort of stuff, that you'd probably go to Etsy for that sort of thing. And I bet there's a lot of small companies or small businesses, 1 or 2 man bands, making a handsome bit of money off something like Etsy. What do you reckon, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Etsy's obviously geared up around like micro businesses of 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
As one of those businesses, there must be a point when you think, I am sick of paying Etsy's transaction fees, and I could build a website and build a brand of my own. And that's what the report's all about, saying you should do that. And I'd say I'm a strong believer of doing that as well. You need to not be an Apple and own from the manufacturer of the microchips right through the customer service, but to own that first interaction with the customer right through to the final part of purchasing. If you can do that rather than getting an Amazon email saying your order is on its way, of course you're going to do a better job.
If you were starting a business tomorrow, would you go on a marketplace?
I would certainly experiment with it. I think they're great. They give you access to the marketplace, which is the obvious opportunity. If you can use that to kind of get established somewhere and then be building your brand alongside that, at some point it would be great. I think you could turn off the marketplace because your site or your platform is generating enough to justify it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think if you look at the tale that we always hear, it's, I don't want to discount because it'll damage the brand. But if you're not selling anything because you won't discount, then you haven't got a brand. And in the same sort of way, if you won't go on Amazon because you don't want to damage your brand, but it means that you sell 2 things a month, then realistically, at some point you need to just get on Amazon and bite the bullet. And if the 2-year goal is to make enough money to get back off Amazon, that's great. But don't spend 2 years clawing your way onto page 1 of Google and never selling anything because you're too prideful to go on Amazon. It's got to be built on something. You've got to sell stuff.
Interesting, isn't it? We're going to, marketplaces in this sense, then, what are we saying? They're like a gateway into getting a business started. Once you've got a foothold in the market, a selection of customers who know you for your products, and they've built up a relationship with your brand because the products have been so good. When it comes to replacing that product, if it's not buy for life, hopefully they're going to go to Google and Google for your brand. And I think the big takeaway from this trend in particular is if you can get to the point where people are searching for your brand versus your products, that's where you're winning, especially if you're a retailer.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can be someone's go-to brand, then you've got that factor that you need to not worry about, are you on all of these different places? And I guess that's where Google is always going to have something that's a bit of a difference compared to Amazon. As much as Amazon is a threat in terms of just typing it in, and as much as that's a legitimate concern, you can build that brand on Google. You can say, I'm going to be the go-to guy for whatever, and then you can aggressively pursue the searches around that and do it, as opposed to just sitting on Amazon forever and kind of hoping that reputation builds itself.
Love it. It's in the report it says consumers search for solutions, not brands. Marketplaces are gateways for brand discovery. Consumers don't come to the marketplace to seek out brands. Observers have quipped that consumers can find anything on a digital marketplace except your brand. So, if you are on a marketplace, people are going to search for your category, for your product, not your brand. And you've got to bear that in mind. It's a shame that the problem with it is not getting the control over the customer experience. As you say, you can't deliver the messaging around the actual first-time delivery. The customer service, you lose a lot of the control of, and obviously they eat into your margin a lot as well. So I love that as a quip. If the takeaway from this one is purely, you can start on a marketplace, but you obviously want to move off it at some point. That's beautiful. And the example they gave is Gymshark. who we've talked about a lot on the pod before. I think they've done a beautiful job, and I don't think they've ever been on a marketplace, if I'm right.
No, they built themselves off influencers, didn't they? Like right when the idea of the fitness influencer was just becoming a thing, they just sent loads of free stuff out and they became the stuff that all the influencers were. And then that sort of perpetuated itself. But no, I don't think you've ever been able to buy them just in any way that's not direct. Did
Gymshark ever offer anything that, they couldn't have offered on a marketplace, so to speak? So, I'm trying to segue. The report talks about things like personalization or the customer service experience. I think if you're going to eventually come off the marketplace, you've got to think about what can you deliver to the customer that a marketplace can't. Jeff, do you want to take that one a bit, develop it a bit further?
I'm not a Gymshark customer, but I'd imagine it's about a sense of community.
Yeah, of course.
So, if you're discovering Gymshark through an influencer, you want to feel part of that brand, whereas marketplaces are very much like machine-like. So you go on there and you transact and you buy something, and there's, I have no personal connection towards Amazon whatsoever. Same with eBay, same with any other marketplace, really. Even the more kind of nicey ones like Etsy. I don't care for Etsy. I care for the brand business at the end of the day. So I think with Gymshark as well, it's about, just knowing your customer and offering that personal touch that a marketplace never can. So we had a really nice example this week with one of our clients whereby customer was buying something. They were a little bit unsure about pricing, about sizing, So they emailed the business owner and said, I'm a bit unsure about this size. Can you give me a little bit of guidance? She said, yeah, if you're a size 12 and you're about 5'6", like you want to go for kind of this size. That's brand build. That's part of brand building for me. That's something you're never ever going to get on Amazon. As much as they offer the Q's and A's kind of at the bottom and the customer reviews and things like that, to have that personal experience and that exchange with the owner of a business, as we know that converted to a pretty good sale at the end of the day. And if that same product was on Amazon just as a listing, would the customer have purchased when they had queries about sizing? Probably not.
Yeah, love that. It's that's it. Consumers' top reasons for shopping at an independently owned business, online or in store, include 31% experiencing good customer service. That was exactly it. You don't get that. You don't get Jeff Bezos emailing you, do you? When you buy it, if you've got a problem off Amazon.
You'd be very surprised if he did.
I'd never shut up about it if he did.
The report touches on personalization, which I think is an interesting bit, but something that's just, I find it a little bit buzzwordy for marketers to throw around in terms of personalization. When it comes to just buying stuff, I don't find it that important, or I don't find any great examples of it.
I think
where you see great examples of personalization is in stuff like, financial or supermarkets do a great job of it. So you get your Sainsbury's Nectar vouchers through the post, and it's products that are relevant to you, offers that are relevant to you. The holy grail is always customers' baskets, the grocery basket. And then, in terms of financial, where you've got, banks are becoming marketplaces themselves, which is really interesting, and probably a whole of the podcast. Those are things which matter to people, but when you're just buying a t-shirt, where does the personalization experience come into it? I think it's just about kind of know your customers and, cater to them.
Can you do it a bit better if you were to lean on personalization on something like Shopify? Because obviously their whole game with this report is to get people off these marketplaces, and instead of giving you a little bit of margin to Amazon, to Etsy, to eBay, to wherever, they want you paying a few £100 a month so you run your store through them. That's why they've produced this content at the end of the day. But, one of the points they've made in terms of why you might do that is about personalization. And they say it's too lucrative to ignore. Retailers estimate that personalization could unlock 2.95 trillion this decade, which is mental to me.
Where do you get that statistic from? Like,
by Shopify. It's nuts, isn't it? And then it asks about how many companies have an actual personalization program or strategy. They say 74%, but I reckon if we asked, I'm not putting anyone down, but our clients, or, there's a lot of agencies similar to us, I bet you 3 out of 4 of their clients haven't all got a personalization strategy going on. I bet you that's absolute bollocks.
I bet the 74% is personalizing the forename in an email address, and that's about it.
That's a bit 2005, isn't it?
Yeah,
which
well,
is
that's
nice.
it, isn't it? It's the difference between having, is personalization like actually customizing the product? We've got some clients that sell jewelry and you can have it engraved for free and things like that versus just sending you an email where an algorithm has come up with half a dozen products to recommend based on what you already bought and your age and your gender. And I suppose technically that's where the value is going to come from. I don't think Shopify is saying that nearly $3 million are going to be generated by engraving people's jewelry. It is that idea that they're attributing that email based on, how much money is being made through email already, how much of that is going to be personalized. And when you look at it like that in a probably slightly more cynical way, which is classic BFPC, I suppose, then maybe that number can exist, but it's a much less human thing at that point.
It'll be tough, isn't it? It is. If you're a retailer and you're sending people emails like, I've bought a black T-shirt from, let's call it ASOS, and they send me the month after a few very similar black T-shirts that I might be likely to buy because I've bought one very similar before. If we're calling that personalization, then fair enough. But what you think of is giving me an experience and talking to me. Like if we compare it to the real world, the business owner you mentioned before, Jeff, she'll know everyone that usually walks into our shop. She'll know them by name. She'll know the family. She'll know, the kids and the kids' birthdays, and they'll know if their kid's gone off to uni. And every time they'll come in, they'll ask about the family, and they'll know what they bought last time, and they'll know what might be a great addition to what they bought last time, and they will know them very personally. You're not going to get that level of personalization, are you? But you can create the recommended products and things like that pretty easy.
Yeah, I think that's the pitfall. It's not the kind of stuff that Joe mentions where it's just data driven.
Yeah.
You may also like these. Then I'd also argue it's not the, here's John coming through the door, I can give him a personalized experience. It's somewhere in between the two. So knowing your target market and knowing that there's this type of customer who buys your product, and there's this type of customer, and there may only be 5 or so of those, like personas really.
Yeah.
I feel like that's tangible personalization. And if you know your market and you've got a good USP and your product spot on, then those should be really easy to identify. But at the minute, what we see in terms of personalization or lack of, it's very much just like, here's some stuff, do you want to buy it?
Absolutely. I do think though there's something to be said for even that very basic data-driven email sort of approach is being done quite badly by some of the really big players, by some of the marketplaces, crucially. There's a couple of laptops that I bought when I was a student over the years where I bought them off Amazon. And, the things we think you might like for the next couple of weeks when they were sending those emails, it was all laptops. It's like, I've already got one. I've got one. That is the last fucking thing that I want to buy. Like,
you'll buy another laptop, do you?
Yeah, like anything. Like it was one of them I bought, during that like point when all the laptops had a CD drive and now none of them do. And it was in that like transitional period. And it could have sold like an external disk drive or like a mouse or literally a million different accessories or cases or whatever, but not another laptop because Jesus Christ, like I've got one. And so, if all it amounts to is that you sort of have these automated emails where you just try a bit harder than that, it's a nice first step. But like you say, it's got to really go above and beyond that in terms of really reaching out to, it's still a person. We say it all the time, people buy from people. And until you can be a person that they can buy from, then you are not getting as much of an edge on the marketplaces as you necessarily could do.
100%, and I like that. That could apply to anything. It applies extremely well to tech. You've bought a laptop. The next things you might look for: external drive, mouse, whatever it might be. If it's fashion and I buy a nice coat, maybe the next thing I'm looking for is a pair of jeans or a hat or some gloves or something like that. And I'm sure if you give me any industry, we could come up with some sort of upsell around that. That again, to go back to what you said, Jeff, it's knowing your customer. It's what are they buying? What might they want to buy next? How can you anticipate their future problems and meet their needs?
I think a big part of the problem is it requires human input. Even still in 2021, So we rely on these kind of algorithms and machine learning and stuff, and you still get very poor like word matching, really. So you'll get things like you have bought something and then there's a homonym for that word and it matches it up with something way outside of the boundaries of what you were looking for. But, you know, if you sat down with salespeople and said, you know, Joe's bought this laptop and it's known to have a really low hard disk size, so people buy thumb drives with it. A salesperson would do that, someone in store, and they would know that they could probably convert a high percentage of customers to do it. But do you see that often enough on retail stores, especially marketplaces? Like, definitely not.
No, good. No, we there's a tick for your human salesperson. Computers aren't coming for the jobs just yet, which is nice. Something I thought would bring up as we wrap up this trend. I thought automatically sync your product creative was quite a nice little touch and something that people probably don't think about enough. Especially if you are going on these marketplaces and wanting to sell across different channels, for example, and be found in different places. You know, you want the brand experience to be the same as much as you possibly can do. So if you're selling a jacket, you want that same picture of the model that you've taken and the picture you've taken for your brand to be the product image, for example. And if you upload it to a third-party API and that slings it straight into eBay and Etsy and wherever else you might buy it, kind of automatically, that's going to be great. So I love that as a pointer.
That's something where the marketplaces, that's where they make it so easy for you that you almost can't get it wrong. And where that had to be a manual process, even 5-10 years ago, you could end up with horrible product pages and missing images and stuff like that. But to Shopify's credit, you upload your products once and then away you go wherever you want to sell.
Doddle, too easy.
It's too easy.
What about the gather insights to optimize your product pages? I thought that was quite nice as well. We don't use that enough. I don't know why it's leaning into the brand building purpose here. I wax lyrical about the Manta Sleep product page, don't I? I think that's an absolute beauty of how to build a brand on a product page. Like, obviously, you land on the page, you see the product and the images and the title and the price and a few reviews and the add to cart button above the fold. But then you scroll down below the fold and there's things on there like sleep is too important to leave to chance, so don't. And there's more about the Manta Sleep and the mission and why it's important to get great sleep. And then it goes into comparing the Manta Sleep mask versus every other sleep mask on the market. I think that as a product page is an absolute beauty for me. It's the best one I've seen on the internet. I absolutely love it. Joe, I know you've played with tools that do things like track scroll depth and where people might be getting to on things like that product page. So if you're going to go for a massive product page, when it says gather insights to optimize your product pages, is that the kind of thing? Just little bits of data where you can?
I think at its most basic level, yeah. I mean, obviously you've got the likes of Hotjar and stuff for when you are trying to go that little bit further. And then you can see exactly what people are clicking on and where their mouse is lingering and stuff like that. But if the first step that you take is something like, tracking how far somebody scrolled, which is really easy to do. And then at least if you've got what you think is your really long form, great bit of sales copy with your offer sort of right at the bottom. We get it sometimes where clients only want to put the one call to action at the very bottom.
Yeah.
And if it's 90% of the way down, and you can prove that most of your customers aren't scrolling past 75%, well, there you go. You can at least do something with that. And if that's the way you dip your toe in, I could think of much worse ways to do it.
Do you do much on that with your GA analysis, Jeff, in terms of looking at landing pages or product pages?
Yes, I mean it's fairly rudimentary, and it's a whole other discipline almost.
Right.
And there's a lot you can infer from Google Analytics data, which is great, free tool. Some of it's just sprung to mind there, which on the face of it sounds really basic and sounds like a fantastic use for automation, and something we see. I'm thinking directly on social ads, but not on product pages. Would be like A/B testing of the main product image on a product. That's something that sounds like it could be automated incredibly easily. And, if you find that we're driving 1 million visits to a product page and it's getting a bounce rate of 80%, and then you change the hero product image, and it lowers it. That sounds like a good use of AI.
Not enough of that, is there?
But not that we see. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I've done actually earlier today for one of our clients is obviously, it's coming to what we hope is the end of the whole COVID-19 farce right now.
You mean we can go to the pub soon?
Very soon, yeah. And the whole thing is, we've got a couple of clients in different areas that cater to, it's the sort of thing you buy when you're getting ready to get married. You'd have it at your wedding. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of them that are kind of waiting, on tenterhooks for when weddings finally start to come back. And there's a bit of a hunch, and we just sort of said, can we go away and prove this with any sort of data? Mm-hmm. And so the manual process, and I guess this is where if AI can enhance this, that would be fantastic, is that, we went and we quickly looked at Google Trends, and it was like, the data says that, this might be about to become sort of like a breakout category and spike in volume. That's, that goes wrong as often as it goes right. But we were able to look on the collection pages and the product specifically on our client's website and say, well, actually, the stuff that relates to specifically weddings or those products, even when they're not categorized by weddings, but the sort of thing you buy anyway, is just about getting ready to spike back up. And you can see where these are getting more page views over time. And we've even spoken to people where, they drop a new range of, accessories, whatever it is. And you can see where the really good ones are based on just which ones are getting viewed more, which ones are more appealing to people based on what's getting viewed more. Mm-hmm. And right now, all of that is manual. And if we could figure something, which, I mean, given that it's all in Google, I'm sure there's a way, but I'm sure it's also not free, where you could figure out where is the interest on your website. You launch a new collection of shoes or jewelry or whatever. Where is the interest? So where should you be focusing extra hard with your sort of human efforts as well?
So looking for spikes in page views depending on seasonality, depending on trends, depending on lockdowns ending, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some clients that sell swimwear, and it was trialed last year, so obviously that went nowhere. Mm-hmm. If we can keep an eye on this year, when does it start to pick up? That should be a klaxon for us to do something big.
Yeah, and that can be automated. That's a reason to lean into AI.
Yeah.
Quick one before we stop this recording. I saw an Aussie marketplace this morning called Poshmark. Don't know if you've heard of it. Mm-hmm. But they're starting to trial videos on their product pages.
Right.
So basically, it's aimed at women, and they're kind of selling on the dresses that they've only worn a couple of times and stuff like that. And instead of a few product shots, what they're encouraging the users to do is like record a video of them in the dress, and they can see how it fits and it falls. And I think the quote was, a short video can do the work of 8 product images. Can you guys see that being the future, like a product video over the product image?
I think the influencers are already doing it. I've only heard of it because there is one influencer that I follow on Instagram that actually isn't Australian, but is on Poshmark regardless. And it's just like a sort of a shinier, nicer Depop, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And it is that sort of the fact that the people that are already adopting it that I've seen are the ones who are marketing stuff every day with videos and stories and everything anyway. They've obviously tested that's the best way. They must know. And whether Depop have learned it from them or whether they've just had the common sense to figure it out on their own, it's got to be the most kind of sensible way of doing this.
Yep. On the big boys testing things, so you can kind of know that if the big lads are doing it, it's probably a good idea. I recorded a BFBC bite a while ago on Gymshark on their product page, and they've got a few GIFs on there, which I think are really, really clever. So like if you can see their shorts, for example, and there's a guy doing kind of a reverse lunge with the shorts on, so you can see how the shorts stretch to the movement. And it shows you the guy zipping his pocket up, for example, with his phone in there, so it won't fall out while you're in the gym. I thought that was a really clever use of the real estate on the product page.
For the cost of production of making those videos, if I was running an e-commerce store, especially within fashion, I'd have video, and then maybe a couple of images after that, but certainly leading with video. And, I'd love to see the data on conversion rates, but
nice.
If, as you say, if Gymshark are doing it, the rest should be following.
Yeah. And because it's video, the way you produce that video will in turn build your brand, won't it? Because you know, Gymshark use ones of fit looking guys doing exercise. You know, that's by association building the Gymshark brand as a big player in the fitness space. So yeah, super. Anything else to add on that one, boys, or shall we leave that one there?
Yeah, I'll just say, you know, build your own brands.
Yeah, if you want to enter on the marketplace, if you're a young company and then exit it, you want to own the customer journey eventually. Right, thank you very much for your time.